Welcome to episode 17 of the 24-Hour Hustle Show, and today I am super excited because we got WWE analyst Justin LaBar. Welcome to the 24-Hour Hustle Show. I'm your host, Anthony Freeze, entrepreneur as well. And today we got special guest, Justin LaBar. And for those who know me pretty well, they know that I'm a huge wrestling fan. So to be honest with you, to have you on, I'm really excited to talk wrestling. It's something that I've always wanted to talk about on this show. And so to be able to have you on, I'm definitely excited to be able to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you. I mean, we're talking about wrestling today?
Oh, yeah. We're absolutely going to talk some wrestling today.
I didn't know we're talking about wrestling. I don't do that a whole lot. I don't know. I might be a little rusty.
Right. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, as we do on every episode, so what's been going on the past couple of days? I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on. So give us your background and, just what's been going on the past couple of days.
Past couple of days, I mean, we are entering the busiest time in wrestling, the road to WrestleMania. It's kind of like the playoff, equivalent to the playoffs for other sports. So that's getting excited with that. In terms of having so many things going on. They have the Raw 25 milestone show, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. So that's I try to have events around them, whether I'm attending them or whether I'm still here in Pittsburgh, and of course from the podcasting standpoint, video and audio, from a writing standpoint. And then I have my other wonderful career that's also going on, which is I work with Trib Total Media here in Pittsburgh. I am the general manager of the Trib Live High School Sports Network that the company acquired and created. Was previously the MSA Sports Network that happened this past fall. So I'm all responsible for all things that. So it's been no boring days.
Yeah.
But
one of the things that I've been able to follow a lot is your video podcast, which is Chair Shot Reality. I love that. It's almost kind of like what What Culture does, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with.
I'm familiar with them.
Okay, yeah, I actually saw some of the story on that, but and what happened. But we won't get into that unless you want to. Tell us a little bit about that, and how'd you get started in that?
Yeah, I mean, Chair Shot Reality was what put me on the map. Mm-hmm. The map being people who talk and cover about pro wrestling, specifically WWE. It was a case of I knew I wanted to be involved with pro wrestling. Ever since I was a kid, my grandfather dabbled in it with his buddies of his, helped promote and put on some spot shows down in the Maryland, D.C. area when I was growing up. So I got a chance to see behind the scenes then. We were, driving George the Animal Steel and some of these, famous older wrestlers. And it just, as a kid, when you get to see how the magic's done, or at least a little glimpse of it, I mean, it was a bug. There was no. I knew I'd be following wrestling for the rest of my life, and I always had the aspiration of, okay, how can I apply whatever skills I have to maybe be involved in it in a career? And the opportunity came. WrestleZone.com, a wrestling website. They were looking to expand into more video content, and I got linked up with them. And this was in 2009, and they were looking for video content. And I said, at the time, this is 2009, there wasn't a lot of video podcasts for wrestling. It was starting to increase with audio, but there just wasn't anything like video, much less anything that was being really well produced. You might see somebody on a webcam or something in their bedroom or something like that, but there really wasn't a whole lot of like well produced, thought out, pieces that I could find. And I thought, maybe, and I have I've just gotten my degree in television and broadcasting from Point Park University in Pittsburgh, so I had the know-how of how to do multi-camera edits and how to format a show. So I just started scribbling stuff on a piece of paper of ideas, and it kind of it's evolved as everything does. It's first I think kind of a Sports Center feel kind of was the initial maybe inspiration, and then it's evolved in different ways. There's been times where we've done some skits, almost SNL like, especially when we have wrestlers come in. We've done some funny skits with them, kind of like just fun commercials. I've heard some people refer to it as the View for men. I don't know. There's all kinds of. I mean, I guess you kind of just pull. As everything as you always do, you try to just pull from some of the best. You try to borrow from the best.
Yeah.
It's just evolved, and it started in a basement.
Yeah,
It was in a basement. My co-host from the very beginning, a guy that I made friends with in college, his name is Josh Eisenberg. We started in his. We started first in the bachelor pad living room that I had at the time, with just some black curtains behind us. It was so bad as I look back at it now. Then we moved for a good period of time, probably maybe at least 80 episodes worth of, which is 80 weekends basically, to his parents' basement. We actually built a green screen down there, and then we moved into another basement in a new place that I was now living. We actually built a green screen even more. It was probably our nicest set out of the basement sets was that last one.
Out of the basement rendition?
Yeah, out of the basement category. But it was I remember it was about 2012, and it was just starting to get really. I was having fun, and I was also now at this point doing other things. I was writing at this time for Bleacher Report now, and I was just doing a lot of other things, and it was getting taxing. I mean, as you know, it's a lot of work, and I mean, it was me. I was editing a 3-camera show together, putting the graphics in, all the work to it. We didn't have a crew. It was me.
Right.
So it was starting to wear, and I was starting to wonder, okay, have we hit the peak? Like, I'd rather stop this and let people miss it than keep going and people stop watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think the goal needs to be I need to find a more formal, traditional studio to work out of, so we can not only expand the job skills to other people, but just have a better look if this thing's going to continue, if I want to continue it. And I really just turned to my alma mater, to Point Park University, and I just went to them and I said, look, we have this show that now at this point the show did well. It was doing well in terms of views from all around the world. It had its own little reputation. I said, what if we brought this to the university, did it in your studios? You get the promotion. We'll say that we're at Point Park University, and we get this nice new studio, and we get help, and it can be so we can apply it to a class. Rather than students just doing things that are only being seen on campus and campus television, let's give them something to where if they're directing, if they're actually switching the camera shots and loading the graphics, they can be proud and say, wow, I got people from all over seeing this, and they can use it, of course, for a demo reel or a portfolio if they go out to the real world. And that's what's happened. It's been applied to a practicum class. We've had a great relationship with Point Park. There's 2 studios that we use, the original studio that's in the University Center, and now the brand new Center for Media Innovation. So we've used both studios. We've been going since January of 2013 that we started that semester, and we've been there ever since, even in the summer times. And we've had a lot of students that have gotten placed in the real world, and they've used our show or me as references, and it really makes it feel like it wasn't a devious pitch. It was a legitimate. Here's a pitch, and it's worked out for both sides. And I couldn't be happier. And again, being an alma mater, being an alum there and not being my alma mater, it's nice being around there. It's nice still seeing how things are growing. It makes me still feel part of the team.
Absolutely. It's definitely come a long way. I mean, from the basement to where it is today, I mean, it's definitely inspiring. It's something that I am excited to see where it goes even further. And just hearing that story, I know it gives a lot of people, who want to start, their own video podcast or want to start their own show or want to get into broadcasting or whatever it may be, gives them a lot of hope.
I wish I had this. Your digs are nice.
So this is episode 17. I mean, for a place like Studio Me to be here, thank God for them for being here. I mean, and this to be available. I would be shooting it in my basement probably.
Episode 17, I was trying to make sure the basements weren't flooding and the cables weren't getting wet. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was trying to make sure nobody coming in and out of the house was a disturbance.
We're like, whoa, we were shooting here. But that shows your dedication into getting it done and not letting anything stop you. I mean, and just in that story, I mean, we could definitely unpack a lot of things. I definitely want to talk about, what may stop people from, doing those type of things, because some people may not want to start in a basement because it's not of higher quality or how to grow their following.
There's not instant gratification, and that's the biggest thing, and it takes patience. And that's why, 2012, I started to get to the end of my patience of like, okay, we've got the show to this point in terms of this level of viewership and this level of notoriety and this level of production. Do I have it in me to keep going at that rate? And I didn't. And so it was like, okay, we have to go to the next level if this is going to keep going. And again, thankfully to Point Park and Josh and the crews and everybody, it did. But it takes patience, and that's the thing. You have to stick with it. You have to be consistent. You can't, that was when we started Share Shot, we were not consistent. We started in the summer of 2009. We did a couple episodes, and we even fluctuated on the days that we did it during the week. And then that fall, I was working with the Pittsburgh Trib still at that point. That was my first year with them, and I was going to go on the road and be at every Steeler game, home and away, doing video stuff. So I was like, all right, I don't know if I have the time right now. And again, Chair Shot was only a couple episodes old, so it wasn't like it was anything. We weren't getting paid for it yet. We weren't. There was no real gratification. There wasn't thousands of fans that needed to see it. So we took the fall off, and then right about as 2010 came up, coming closer, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan were getting ready to go to TNA. Bret Hart was coming back to WWE. It just felt like a lot of things were going on. Football season was done, and I was like, all right. I was like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it now. But we got to be consistent. We got to be every same days, same time, every week to train the audience, and that's what we did. And from January of 2010, now we're approaching 400 episodes.
That is awesome. I mean, that's a major. Yeah. I mean, that's a goal that we want to get to as well. I mean, 400 episodes, that's a big deal. But I definitely want to talk about, the instant gratification a little bit more and expand on that a lot more, because I know people, when they want to start something, they want things to come quickly, but one of the biggest things people need to have is just patience. Yeah. Even just doing this, I mean, what I would say as far as advice, don't pay attention so much to the views in the beginning. I mean, because they're going to be low. But if you're staying consistent and you're putting things out there consistently, which is another big part of, getting those views up and, a good amount of followers, if you're consistent with something, eventually people are going to be like, this guy's taking it pretty seriously. Yeah. And especially even for you, I mean, with the episodes keep climbing up there like that, eventually people are going to be like, yeah, he's taking it seriously.
Yeah, it takes time to train them, for them to start seeing the same thing every week. I mean, there's so much stuff out there today. I mean, even when we started, there was not nearly as much. It's a double-edged sword. When we started, there was not as much competition, in 2009 and 2010 as there is now, but there also wasn't the capabilities there are now with, being able to shoot things on your phones with the quality, and having to be able to embed video into things like Twitter and Instagram, the way the social media game has grown. So it's a double-edged sword. I think back, I'm like, man, if we had some of the platforms that are really developed now, if we had them 8 years ago, that but you learn, and you have to be consistent, and you have to be consistent. People start finding you. You gain a little bit of reputation. Once you gain reputation, then all of a sudden you have a little bit of a You have an extra bullet to fire in your pitch of trying to get talent, to come on. I mean, we were fortunate in our very number one episode, because it was going on WrestleZone at the time. I was able to, the people at WrestleZone were able to help me, and I got Rob Van Dam, a wrestler, a really well-known wrestler, to record. We didn't see him; it was recorded on phone, but we put up, a graphic of him when he was speaking. So that will at least got us a little bit of a out the gate attention. The first episode with Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Because nobody knew who Josh or I were. So,
right.
But
that's awesome. I mean, to be able to get somebody like that on is a big deal. So in the beginning stages, how were you even able to get people like that to come on to the show? How were you able to start to build up those relationships and get yourself known in the wrestling industry?
Because we were on WrestleZone, that was the thing. It was a big platform, so that was the selling point too. I think our episode 50, we had Jerry the King Lawler and Mick Foley on, again via audio. We didn't have them in studio yet.
Right.
We had. I wasn't going to have guests in studio until we got out of the basement.
Right. Completely understandable.
Which we eventually did.
Yeah.
WrestleZone helped. The platform helped because we weren't. We had that platform. It wasn't like we were just on our own personal blog. It was an already established website, so that helped. Being consistent helped. And then as I was doing Chair Shot, I started a branch to do other things, just to expedite my learning and my name getting out there. So it all just kind of helps as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning phases of starting up your video podcast, Chair Shot Reality, what would you say is the biggest hurdle that you faced that you had to overcome? Because somebody that may be watching that want to start their own video podcast, or maybe do some wrestling related. What would you say was the initial challenges in the beginning, and how did you overcome those?
I would say initial challenges were just the time to put it together. After you record after you set up everything yourself, again, every camera, make sure every light's right, figure out what your backdrop's going to be, and then you record for 30 minutes or an hour, however long it takes, and then like I said, these are 3 cameras, you got to sync up and edit and render them, and again, and that's the other thing, as your team here knows, this was 8-9 years ago, so video editing wasn't it's developed, but the softwares and the systems have developed, so. I would just say the manpower of getting it out, and then at first we would release a video each day over the weekend, And that was all on me. It was up to me to get it edited. It was up to me to get it uploaded. And then it was up to me to take the video and then put it on WrestleZone and write something about it, or transcribe quotes. It was just a lot of work. I mean, that's the biggest challenge. It's just the workload of that. And I we overcame it. Like I said, eventually evolving out of the basement and having actual crew of students to help and assign them things. Maybe this person does social media or whatever the case may be. So that helped.
So building up a team or just having students who maybe want to help an intern and give a helping hand on it has definitely helped a lot. I know that's where we would even want to get to the point with this show. We want to be able to have people come on and intern and take pictures and do behind the scenes and post stuff on social media and things like that, because those things could take a lot of time and work and effort to be.
You want to do it right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just, you want to do it right, but there's just only so many hours after a while.
Right. Absolutely. So, how would you say you grew your following? What was the biggest thing that helped you grow your following, and which platform would you say helped do that the most?
I can't really single out one platform. I think it was definitely a combined effort. It helped that people were finding me literally almost everywhere, between the videos on WrestleZone, then I was writing on WrestleZone as well, whether it be opinion or maybe reporting some news, breaking some news. Then I was writing over in Bleach Report, which was really gaining a lot of traction and growing, and they're still growing. So that helped there. And then I also started doing a radio show out of, through the Trib and through here in Pittsburgh. So there was another medium for people to find me. And then I started getting involved in independent wrestling. I kind of realized that there is so much competition out here. There's so many people that are talking about wrestling. What am I going to do to stand out? What's my gimmick going to be?
Right.
And I thought there's not a lot of. I'm not really seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of wrestling fans talking. But what if I can take it a step further? I'm making contacts and starting to meet wrestlers, so you can pick the brains and get a little insight. But still, what if I can start to get involved in wrestling shows as a performer, as a producer, and that's going to be the best way to learn. I'll network even faster that way. So, I started getting involved with some independent wrestling organizations. The first one I got involved with was in Cleveland. It was called PWO Wrestling. When I started in there, and I got involved as a character, and I got it. I started to see firsthand, even though it wasn't on a WWE scale, but it's still we were on.
It's better than nothing.
We were on Sports Time Ohio. It was on DirecTV, so it was seen around the country. So there was a format for a show. There was a TV crew. So I started learning how they put a show together. It's amazing. You can watch wrestling your entire life, as I did, and consider yourself pretty knowledgeable and paying attention to little things as a fan. And again, having seen some stuff as a kid around my grandfather, but you can have all that visual knowledge. There's no substitution for actually hands-on seeing it.
Right.
It was a humbling experience because and I think I was very respectful and very appreciative to be there. But you can watch wrestling again your whole life. You don't really know as much as you think you know until you're in that situation. So I learned a lot from some great guys, and I did some physicality. I started learning how to, I've had times where I started learning how to bump and fall and do things, and when needed for the situations, and it built all the way to a great story that culminated in it's kind of like their WrestleMania. It was called Wrestlelution. At a pavilion with several thousand people outside in Cleveland in the summer.
Nice.
And it resulted in me being in the main event, being part of the main event match. The last match, we're on iPay-per-view, and my hired gun, my bodyguard I brought in to help me take care of our issue was Kevin Nash.
Are you serious?
So here I am. So Kevin Nash.
That's huge.
So Kevin, it's crazy because growing up, the first pay-per-view I ever went to live was Survivor Series 95, and Nash main evented that against Bret Hart. I went to Starrcade 98 in D.C. where Goldberg finally lost after his streak.
Right.
Lost to Kevin Nash in the main event. Went to Great American Bash 99 maybe in Baltimore. Kevin Nash in the main event. Kevin Nash main evented more things that I went to as a kid. And here I am walking down the aisle. My mom and dad and family are in the front row. Here I am walking down the aisle with Kevin doing the 2 Sweet, going to the ring.
Yeah.
Main event on pay-per-view after this, finishing a storyline that we literally built for 10 months. That was kind of like, okay, now I have something that I can show on CSR. Now I have something I can write about experiences and obvious clips here that I can now, as I'm talking about WWE or what have you, now I'm starting to get a whole different part of my brain, of a different understanding of things. Still much more to learn, and I'm still learning today. But it was a great insight to sit in a trailer with Kevin Nash and learn how this match is going to go and why it's going to go this way. And then things, the ring had a little malfunction before we went out there, so we're standing behind the curtain. And there was a hardcore match that was just before us for the title, and Kevin called an audible right there. And here I am just trying to make sure I know where I need to be.
Yeah.
And now he's calling the audible, and I'm like, oh boy.
You're like, we're going to like 10 minutes?
I'm like, yeah, I was just like, really?
Yeah.
But it was Kevin Nash. It was Kevin Nash and a guy based out of Erie named Aaron Draven up against the guy that I had been feuding with, this Marion Fontaine character, phenomenal entertainer. And his partner, he brought in to combat Kevin Nash, the guy we know now is Luke Harper.
Wow.
So that was the main event I was going into. And it was just like, okay, like, we're not in the basement.
Yeah, that's amazing how everything just, from where you started and to get to that point is amazing. Take us back to, your childhood, and what was it about wrestling that really did it for you to say, this is what I want to do for my life?
It's just so colorful, man. It was just the characters. Just, my mom was a young mom, and she still does work with the police department. So she worked a lot of crazy hours, still does. And, I was a young kid, and so wrestling was my babysitter. It really was. She would get off work, and she'd take me to Toys R Us to get the wrestling figures in the ring, and she'd let me rent the videos, or I would start recording them on the VHS, at home. And if she needed to take a nap because she's working 12-hour shifts, 4 days in a row, this was my babysitter. My wrestling figures and the videos. It was just, it was the number one thing that made me happy in terms of an entertainment or of a toy. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want board games. I didn't want G.I. Joes. I wanted my wrestling figures because I just loved the colorful characters. I've thought for years. I've tried to dive into it more, like what it really is. And it was just something about just the music and the costumes and the rivalries. It was some kids get into Batman and Superman. I was just into the live theater of these characters, from a Hulk Hogan to this Jake the Snake Roberts, who I love, but yet I'm petrified of snakes. But it was so I don't know. It's just it was just. The live theater was amazing to me.
Right. I know for me, I really love the storylines. And I know for me, when I was young, like Monday Night Raw, me and my brother all the time, almost religiously, would wrestle while Raw was happening. So it was just like growing up with that and seeing things happening and to be able to go to shows. Actually, one of the first shows that I went to was when, what pay-per-view was that? It was when Mankind and Undertaker was in the Hell in a Cell match.
King of the Ring 98?
King of the Ring 98. And me and my brother went to go to that pay-per-view, and I was actually there to see that. And to be a part of that is just crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, to grow up with those type of things happening. And
that's a hell of a first one to go to because that kind of sets the bar pretty high.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then, the Attitude Era was probably one of the best times in wrestling, in my opinion.
For sure.
At that time, being a fan, it was cool to be a fan at that time, And I remember when I was in middle school, after Monday Night Raw, we would go to school and we would talk about it, and be in the lunchroom and talking about
if
the
you
matches.
missed it, if you had to go to bed early or you just missed it, like you were behind the curve.
Right, exactly. It was like, dude, you didn't watch it last night?
See what happened?
Yeah, exactly. So
Austin drove a beer truck in
on the Zamboni and stuff like that. It was crazy. And then just like you, I would record all the pay-per-views on VHS. I still got a ton of them on VHS.
Which now with the WWE Network, it's just like,
it's like, I know, right?
This.
It's like it's just collecting dust now. No one even uses VHS, but yeah, it's great to even be able to have the WWE Network and just go back and just relive those childhood memories. So it's definitely awesome. So as far as being the character and stuff like that, or somebody that maybe wants to be a wrestler, that may be watching, what are some insight or tips that maybe you can give for somebody, or if they just want to be a character, what are some insight that you can maybe shed on that?
You mean like a character like working in the independent scene of wrestling? Well, be very mindful of who you get involved with. Just like anything, obviously, these days, social media, podcasting, whatever, there's so much out there, and there's so many people saying, oh, I'm legitimate. Really do your research on what independent organizations you try to seek out to get involved with. Obviously, wrestling schools, mainly if that's usually where it starts. I had an unusual path, but, wrestling schools is where it starts. You want to find a good I work with IWC Wrestling here in Pittsburgh, and they have a tremendous school. It's the IWC has been IWC was where WWC Superstar Elias started. DJZ. There's been a lot of guys that have come through there. So you want to find a good place, good people around you. You want to find good people that are going to teach you and to be around and what have you. That year that I told you about in Cleveland that led up to with Kevin Nash. I did a couple more years with him until the company went away, and I was a good guy the whole time. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that after that first year, most of the crowd didn't want to cheer me. I was the obnoxious. I was an obnoxious good guy authority figure. Nobody really wanted.
So you're just a baby face.
And I couldn't. I couldn't stand up for myself. I couldn't go hit. So it was I wasn't real well liked. It's almost like the fans wanted me to be. They wanted me to turn. It just never happened. And then I started working with IWC, and I've never been liked there on purpose. And it's great because it literally takes. Anybody that watches or follows my stuff, I'm appreciative. If you don't like me or you don't agree with me, whatever. But I appreciate anybody following and paying attention. And there's obviously an outspoken, as everything is, but especially in wrestling, there's always an outspoken portion of the audience. And I get people that, LaBar, you don't know what you're talking about. LaBar, you're stupid. LaBar, you're cocky and arrogant. Like whatever their problem is with me.
Yeah.
So it was like when I went to IWC in Pittsburgh, I was like, let's just take this. Let's take the internet fodder or whatever anybody thinks negatively of me or thinks that they know of me
and use that.
And let me go on there and be obnoxious. Let me tell them why they are wrong and why I'm going to give them the reality check. Let me tell them about all the wrestlers I know. Let me name drop. Let me do everything that they might complain about, and I'm going to amp it up as loud as I can be. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wear white shoes. I'm going to wear a leather jacket that has my name, a check mark, and my verified check from Twitter on it. Let me do anything that is just the most obnoxious thing possible. It's so for me, it was simple because I just pulled from maybe an already existing thought from some people. So that's I guess the same advice can be given to anybody, and that's kind of what I've learned from other people, especially characters way more successful than me. Is you just pull something, pull from whatever your real interests are, your real things are.
Right.
I can take Elias. Elias is a good guitar player in real life. He likes to play guitar.
Yeah.
So that's turned into part of his deal.
Right.
And we could go through a million other guys. So you just don't try to completely be something you're not.
Right.
Pull from what you know.
Right. So
I knew how to run my mouth.
So which do you like better? You kind of almost remind me of like a Paul Heyman.
Thank you.
And as far as doing,
I've told Paul that he disagrees.
I'm sure he might or would. But so which do you like better, being a heel or a baby face?
Oh, heel. Heel's so much more fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, it's again when you're in my position. I'm not as big as I'm not fully trained of a wrestler. Again, right. I've done stuff and I know some things of what to do to protect myself, but I can't go out and put on a 20-minute match. I'm not the size they are. I can't. To be a babyface, I can't stand up for myself. I don't have that heroic nature in me.
Yeah.
So it's just much easier to be the antagonist and push and push and push. And then eventually they grab me and they beat me up. But that's just easier.
Yeah.
I'll push and push and push for a lot of months, get the crowd riled up, keep them coming back, waiting for me to finally get caught. And then that's what I'm meant to do. That's
plus I feel like the audience just like the heels more anyway. And we're kind of in a very interesting time as far as heels and baby faces goes. I mean, gone are the days of...
There's no cool heel factor with me, I can tell you that much.
That would be cool.
There's no cool heel factor. They genuinely just like to not like me.
And it seems like it's very hard to build a babyface gimmick in this day and age. You got to have a little bit more of an edge to you, I feel like, to be able to get over.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a very interesting time because what's your take on just the state of wrestling or WWE in general, just the divide as far as characters go.
There's been so much knowledge put out there and everybody has a voice that with social media that it's just become to a point where it's roles are reversed. Mm-hmm. It's the great debate of they should have turned John Cena heel, they should turn Roman Reigns heel. And it's like, well, if you turn them heel, then the people that don't like them will like them, and the people that like them won't.
It'll just reverse.
It's still going to be 50-50. There's just so much exposure out there anymore, and people who think, and some of them actually do, and some of them don't, who think they know how this works and what gets over, and everybody puts a voice out there. I do think that the voices that we hear on social media, especially the heavy critics, I do think that that population is not as big as it sounds. I think they scream from the top of roofs. I think they're very dedicated in giving their opinion of liking the heels, not liking the faces. But I don't know if it's as widespread as it might sound. I still think there are people that just don't take to social media the same way, that still do like the traditional good guy, bad guy, or still follow the rules. We just don't hear from them.
Right.
They don't overanalyze things.
Right.
And that's not to say that things aren't changing. I mean, things have definitely changed. It's definitely a different way to get over these days. Fans are smarter in the sense of they've seen more, so it's harder to shock them. So it does take different approaches. But I also think that there's times where performers even get too wrapped up in trying to like outsmart them or work them or I'm going to swerve them here, swerve them. I think sometimes if you just boil it down and go back to basics, I think sometimes that there's something to be said for that. And and there's no and it depends on where you are. The WWE crowd is different from a Ring of Honor crowd, which is different from a New Japan crowd. So it depends on who you're having to cater to and who you're having to try to get to cheer or dislike you where you're at. I mean, even in IWC, we have different venues that we go to throughout the region, and different cities, depending on where we are, garners different types of fans. There's some towns we go to that are a little more rural, and it's kind of you can kind of do the traditional stuff. We kind of call them like the southern audience in a way, that you can just do a lot of just traditional bad guy, good guy stuff. But then there's other towns where they're just smarter, more invested fans who know more, read more, what have you. So you got to do some different things because they're going to be harsher critics.
Right. Like I said, I feel like it's definitely an interesting time because you mentioned like a New Japan or a Ring of Honor. Those are starting to gain more popularity because people who are fans of wrestling, they want more. And with the information being out there where you can watch shows on YouTube and things like that and be able to follow along, you can do that.
And that's the thing. You have the ability. I mean, we hear back in the day, back when we were talking about VHS, there used to be the tape trading days where the only way you were going to see something from around the world was find somebody else who had a tape of it and do some trading, mail them a tape or whatever. Now, click of a button.
Right.
It's there.
Exactly. It's there. I feel like social media has definitely changed up the game, which is why they do everything with the WWE Network, and they try to build up their social media and things like that. I feel like we're in I think Triple H has said this before. We're in the reality era.
Yeah.
Where people are able to see stuff on social media and actually see people out of character. And I feel like what I want to see more is just a little bit more of that transparency between like what's real, what's fake. You know what I mean? I feel like when CM Punk, which is one of my favorite wrestlers, whenever he did the pipe bomb in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
When the transparency was like, is this like legit?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's really leaving. Like, this is for real. I feel like if the storylines were more merged with like what's really happening, that is where I feel like that's what I want to see more. I feel like fans would want to see more of that too.
And I think there's something to be said for that. I think I think to some degree they need to work more off of reality base, and I think you even see it sometimes. We're seeing a lot more chatter amongst performers on Twitter to each other, whether it's scripted or not. And sometimes when it's not, it gets them in trouble. But I think there's something to be said for that. But you also have to be careful how far you go, because then it's
right.
Where's the difference and distinction? But you're right. He calls it the reality era. That always pops me because I have a chair shot reality. The audio podcast is wrestling reality. Reality check's kind of like my tagline. So.
It's all about the reality.
Waiting for a royalty check that's not coming. But no, you should pull off of, I've said this many times. This goes back to a lot of storylines. Storylines that pull from real life, when it is art imitating real life, it always connects to people. We've seen it throughout time when you can pull from real things, whether it's back to Sergeant Slaughter days of, being an Iraqi sympathizer when there's a war going on, to Matt Hardy and Edge had a feud, and we know that there was personal stuff there, and anytime Brett and Shawn, oh my God, Brett and Shawn, so when people know, it certainly makes it a lot easier to just be invested in, for sure.
Exactly, but
you have to watch to what extent,
like how far you push it.
Yeah, when do we completely erase these people having any personal lives at all?
Right.
And when does it all become for show? And that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I would just like to see more, just a little bit more of the reality, or more, and just incorporating that a little bit more. It just piques the interest a little bit more, and like you said, it feels like you have a a stronger connection to the performers and what's going on. So, So another question I want to ask you: what's one of the biggest misconceptions on wrestling that you feel like you debunk on a daily basis, or?
I can't stand the F word, as anybody can. I mean, fake is just the most. I think the debunking's obviously the fake stuff. No, the stuff that makes money.
Yeah.
That's my response usually. Obviously, again, all fans know it, but again, you get a little bit more experience when you're actually in a ring, as I have, that, it's not fake. I mean, you can try to choreograph and plan things and pretend protect each other, but, I've been hit with a steel chair.
Yeah, it hurts.
I've been hit with a kendo stick by the Sandman.
Yeah.
You feel something. You can try to be protected, so it's not as bad as it should be. My favorite thing, my phrase that I'll always describe to people is, pro wrestling is not as real as it can be, but it's not as fake as it can be. And that kind of sums it up. You debunk always it's just for, I don't know, rednecks, or it's just for, whatever people think wrestling is just for. Wrestling sets a lot of trends.
Yeah.
People that don't want to give that credit. Wrestling has had a huge impact on pop culture for 30 plus years. Sure. There are times when you're watching Monday Night Raw where you're watching something pretty ridiculous and you're like, I hope nobody walks in the room now because they're not going to understand what this. I hope my wife does not walk in and go, "What do you want?"
Right.
But there are times, of course, it's its own niche. But by and large, I mean, The Rock is one of the leading men in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Produced out of WWE, created in WWE. John Cena, obviously, right now. Going back to the Hulk Hogan, the Roddy Pipers, Andre the Giants. They create such because. In Hollywood, Hollywood strives to create characters nonstop for movies or TV shows. But they have this strict rule. You're the character, and then as soon as we say cut, you're back to being you.
Right.
And WWE, as we just talked about, especially in this reality era anymore, they live that. The Rock walks around as The Rock.
Right.
John Cena is John Cena. Stone Cold Steve Austin is Stone. I mean, there's just so much. There's no reruns. It's live every week. Nobody else is doing that.
Right.
Saturday Night Live has been live for 40 years. They take an off season. They do it for 1 hour a week, and they take an off season. WWE puts out 5 to 6 hours of content at minimum every single week, and it's live. And that creates its own problems at times, sure, from a creative standpoint. But that right there, pro wrestling. I mean, pro wrestling has been an inspiration to so many athletes, whether it's their poses, their dance, whether it's their dress, anything. I mean, it's. People don't have to like pro wrestling, and people don't have to necessarily understand it, but to completely dismiss it as nothing but a cesspool for steroids and half-naked men and rednecks and people that never grew up, it's just ignorance.
Right. Yeah.
Come step in a ring. We'll
see me in the ring.
Let me. You bring your buddies. I'll bring a few of my buddies. I'll have them show you something. We'll see if you're uttering the word fake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. I feel you. I mean, I've done the same thing. I remember when I was actually going to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. One of my projects that I decided to do was on the WWE, and that was one of the things that people were always telling me, like, "Oh, isn't that fake?" or "Why are you into that?" or "Aren't they in steroids?" And I'm like, you just don't understand. It's like, we'll be here all day trying to explain this. But
it's a publicly traded company that, I mean, they have their hand in movies. They're just so. I mean, they're. I mean, Robert Morris University here in Pittsburgh is doing a class in this current semester about WWE and the economics and the business of it. I mean, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
People are making their livings talking about wrestling. People, it's no different than being. It's no different than being a Hollywood critic. It's no different than being a movie critic who goes and watches movies and writes critiques. It's no different than being a critic for TV. It's what I do with that same thing. It's a little trickier because WWE is very much more of a Hollywood show, but we cover it like we would cover the Steelers. We cover it like we cover
like a Sports Center.
And we cover it like a sport, and it's not the same. In sports, with the NFL and the different leagues, they have requirements of, players have to talk to the media this amount of times, and the coaches, and while WWE is becoming more accessible, and they're doing, we do a conference call with Triple H several times a year. While they are doing things like that more and more, which is good, and they're opening up a line of communication. It's still there's still scripts that need protected. There's still secrets they want protected. They want to, just as a TV show or movie wants to protect the script. So, it's there's it's a weird thing to cover. There's nothing else like it for sure. I mean,
Right.
It's got its own blend of sports and entertainment.
So let's get into one of the biggest events that is about to come up, which is the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
What are some big predictions that you may see as far as like one of the big things that's happening this year, first time ever, women's Royal Rumble, which I'm excited about because it's the first time ever. What's your predictions on who's maybe going to be the first woman to come out? First 2 women to come out for the women's Royal Rumble, because this is going to be a big deal. I mean, you got to make it impactful. Who should it be?
First two. I'll tell you, one of them should be Asuka.
Asuka? Okay.
She's never been beaten in her career from NXT to her WWE career, I should say, from NXT and then now to Raw. So I think whether she wins or not, it makes sense to put her as one of the first 2 in there, because this way she can at least she can either go for a long period of going through a lot of people and then came so short and gets eliminated, which still doesn't tarnish her record.
Yeah.
Or she goes through and she survives from 1 to 30, and that cements even more the fact that she's unstoppable. So I would say I would put her as one of the first 2.
Okay. And what about the other one?
The men?
No. As far as
the woman?
Yeah.
Alicia Fox. I like Foxy. Let's say Foxy.
Going Foxy. One of the ones that I think I may be interested in seeing come out first would be Bayley, only because she has like this babyface gimmick, and to see somebody like her start at the beginning, and then if she were to go long and maybe towards the end, kind of like the same scenario with Asuka, it'll kind of be like, man, she's still fighting to get to the top.
I would agree with you. I mean, it's a very 1996 Shawn Michaels-esque, but I think Bayley's just fallen off in terms of and the connection with the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the answer is, but so I think if things were different, I'd agree with you. But I think right now you go through Hot Hand and Asuka.
Yeah, and I feel that too. I mean, her character needs some tweaking, and I don't know what it is exactly to maybe to be able to help her connect a little bit more, but the connection is definitely off.
She's always too happy.
Yeah.
I like Bayley, but I think it's like
I like Bayley too. I mean, she had one of the best matches with Sasha Banks in NXT.
Yeah, I was there for one of them for the Iron Woman match. I mean, she's a great performer, but it's like it gets to a point to where I sometimes I need to see a little fire. I need to see a little fear. I need to know that like somebody can push you and you're going to push back.
Right.
I sometimes feel like it's like, oh shucks, I'm just Bayley who's been a fan all my
right.
life.
You know what? What I think may help, and what was helping her in NXT is she always had good heels to face to kind of put her against like a Sasha Banks or a Charlotte, to be able to kind of like a Batman Joker. Like you need a yin to your yang. You know what I mean?
Well, and also when Bayley was in NXT, you're also dealing with a different situation there. You're dealing with a smaller crowd. You're dealing with a much more it's almost like a cult crowd. I mean, they're a very, very diehard crowd, and it's usually a lot of the same fans because they're filming a lot of TV in the same location in Florida. So you kind of get them behind you with the hugging thing and the gimmick. Whereas she goes to these big 10,000, 15,000 person arenas, different mix. You might have some diehards here, but then you got this whole section of people who are very casual, who maybe they just won tickets off the radio, and they don't understand this girl who's hugging everybody. Isn't she supposed to be like getting ready to fight? So I think it's just it. And then we've seen that with other people, that the move from NXT to Raw or SmackDown, it's a different situation.
Yeah,
it's a different.
It definitely does change a lot for. I mean, not for everyone, but for the majority of people that come from NXT and then get onto the main roster.
And there's some guys or girls who did okay in NXT and have just
done better.
I mean, I'll go back to Elias. I think
I was going to say.
Elias, he was never world champion in NXT. Mm-hmm. He had a good NXT run, but then they kind of slow burned him on the main roster. He's walking around playing guitar. They really slow burned him in a match. And now, because he has a bigger arena, because he has different cities, he can attack them with his songs every single week. Where if he's in the same city in front of the same 500 fans every week for NXT, he couldn't do that same thing. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I like Elias. I love his gimmick. What about some big pops that'll happen in the Women's Royal Rumble as far as because they're a little bit short as far as filling all the slots. So, there are some predictions that some legends are going to come back. Probably, your Trish and leaders are going to come back. But what are some off the wall that we may not be thinking of right now that you think we may see?
Because, let the ladies aglow. Let the ladies from the Netflix series glow. Have one or two of them make a cameo.
Really?
Yeah, why not? Because, Glow was so successful in its first season on Netflix. If people haven't watched it, I encourage. It was so successful. They're doing a season 2. WWE seems to have been supportive of it. The Girls of Glow were at a red carpet event with WWE some months ago. So like it's not like something that WWE is not acknowledging. Mm-hmm. One of the Glow performers is the performer who performed as Awesome Kong and as Karma, Karma in WWE. So I think maybe have a Glow perform. Maybe have 1 or 2 Glow.
That'd be interesting.
Why not? Especially if it's a good crossover appeal. Because when you do that, you're gonna get more of the mainstream's gonna pick that up.
Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome. And then, so what about the men now? What are some? Who do you think will be the first one to come out for the men? Or actually, hold up. Let's go back. Who do you think will win the women's Royal Rumble?
It's hard. It's hard not to pick Asuka right now. I'm a big Asuka fan, a big supporter, and it's hard to not.
Yeah.
It's just like the men. There's obviously 2 world title belts, 2 brands, so it still leaves a gap on one show or another. But if I'm going to put my chips on somebody, I'm putting them on Asuka.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Asuka too. I love her style. I love her charismatic persona. She's got it going right now. Yeah. And seeing her win, because she's got the whole she's never lost thing, and you got Alexa Bliss as the women's champion right now. They've been having like some little things here and there, and to be able to see that maybe to come together at WrestleMania would be huge.
Asuka's just very believable. Mm-hmm. When she kicks you or hits you, it looks like it hurts because it does hurt.
Yeah. I mean, she's not playing around. I wouldn't want to get kicked by her.
I'll line a couple of the people that are quoting fake up. I don't know if they're men. I'll say let her give her 30 seconds in the ring with you.
Yeah.
Cry fake.
Exactly. What do you think of Ronda Rousey being in the Royal Rumble?
I don't know if we'll see. We are going to see Ronda Rousey soon. I don't know if it's in the Rumble match, but I definitely think we will see Ronda Rousey. I think a mixed tag match at Mania. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to put her in a singles match that quickly on that big of a stage. Mm-hmm. Just because, she only has so much experience of her training she's been doing. So putting her in a singles match might be throwing her in the deep end of the pool in a very unforgiving situation. Because if she did bad, not saying she would, but if she did bad, it's hard to overcome that. Right. You can't unsee what happened at WrestleMania. So I think putting her in a mixed tag where you can protect her and really spice up the maybe a Ronda Rousey and Braun Strowman versus Stephanie and Triple H. I can get behind that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then for the men, who do you think is going to be the first one to come out to start off the Royal Rumble?
These are always hard. The first ones. Keep a theme. Elias starts playing guitar so he can do his spiel and be entrant number 1. We'll go with Elias.
Okay. And what are some?
I'm giving him a.
Yeah, you're giving him a nice little plug.
I know
if he's watching this right now, Elias.
He is. It's the infomercial for him.
Yeah, I like I said, I like Elias. He should get a big.
But it would
push.
make sense for him to be number 1 or 2 because we don't normally see him have an entrance from the we always see him in the ring first. So I think that'd be a great way to start.
That would be. Just have the lights come on and he's just sitting in the ring.
Yeah, he draws number 1 backstage. We know that he's number 1.
That'd be awesome. And what about maybe some big pops that you? Because I've heard maybe some rumors that there may be people, maybe somebody from TNA may be coming in, and maybe some other promotions that may be in the Royal Rumble. Any of those coming to mind to you?
I don't think we should count out seeing Chris Jericho.
Really? Oh yeah, and I've heard he's coming back.
He's got a key to every, he can, Chris Jericho's kind of like Tommy Dreamer. He can simultaneously he manages to be friends with everybody. He can show up at this location,
because he was just in New Japan and wrestling. What's his name?
Kenny Omega. I wouldn't count Jericho out, and normally a Jericho coming out wouldn't be as big of a pop. We've seen Jericho so often and he comes back so often, but under the circumstances, it would kind of be like, here he is.
Yeah. I
can see him. There's been talk of Bobby Lashley. I don't put that. I could see that happening. Yeah.
Who do you think should win the Royal Rumble for the men? Should it be
or will?
Will or So one of the things that I've been kind of thinking, I feel like somebody from SmackDown should win it. Because SmackDown is kind of dragging along, and they need something.
I'm fully convinced that SmackDown. I don't think somebody from SmackDown will win it. I think.
It's what I want to happen, but I don't think it may happen.
Yeah. It's hard to bet against Roman Reigns in terms of will. It's hard to bet against him. I'm a big Braun fan. Mm-hmm. I don't see Braun walking out with the title.
Yeah, they want to keep that mystique with him going.
Yeah, personally, I thought Braun should have won the title back in September. I thought he should have beat Brock there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's hard. Again, it's hard to deviate away from Roman. It's hard because I know pretty much almost any other scenario. It just seems like it's not. If John Cena's around, you can always say, okay, maybe John Cena.
Yeah, I heard that he may. There's maybe a possibility that he may win it.
But it's hard to go away from Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're going to be in Philadelphia where he has a Rumble history, and I feel like they're just going to poke and prod at the audience with that one.
Okay, so Roman Reigns, we'll go with
Yeah.
that. To be honest with me, it is tough to figure out who is gonna to take it in the men. There's just, and I feel like maybe if they did like one that you may not be seeing coming, like every now and then they throw one in there that you didn't see coming, like a Sheamus or Alberto Del Rio or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know like who it could be. This one is challenging this year. I feel like, to your point, I feel like it may be Roman Reigns because they just push that guy so much.
Well, it starts just to become a matter of pieces. You start to look at Mania and you look at WrestleMania and you go, okay, well, if Brock's still going to be the champion, who is he? You just start doing, okay, Cena over here, is Undertaker over here. You just start trying to piece it together. That's why I said maybe if Braun doesn't win the title at Rumble, and if he doesn't re-enter the Rumble match and win the Rumble match, then it's like, okay, he needs a big Mania match.
Yeah.
So that's when I start thinking, okay, what other big Mania match could he have? If it's not in the title, if he's not fighting Undertaker, that's what you think. Okay, maybe him and a Rousey in a mixed you start trying to think because Braun's got to have a big match too. You got to figure out where you put all these people. So
it's definitely interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to the Royal Rumble coming up, and then WrestleMania coming up as well. So for yourself, in the next couple of years, next 2 to 5 years, where do you see yourself going? What's the big goal of yours?
Big goal. Continue increasing the viewership of everything I do with wrestling, I'm very passionate too with the job as general manager with the Triple F High School Sports Network. We have a lot of good goals we want to do in growing that and owning that market here in Western PA with the rights and things we have there. So it's not a real deep answer, but I just want to do as best as I can with what I got going. I mean, I never, I'm always willing to, hopefully new opportunities with the wrestling come about. Maybe the opportunity to guest host this or do that. I've loved when I've got to go on NBC Sports and things in the past to talk about WrestleMania or SummerSlam, in New York City. So I just it's one of those things where I know my goal is always the same, to do better this year than I did last year. That's always the same. I don't necessarily get too hung up in mapping out each month because I just know better that the things just, if I work hard, it'll come together. You know what I mean? It's just. But I always, it is always one of those things. Always on New Year's Eve, I always do sit for a moment and reflect back. Like, okay, what new things did I do this year? What accomplishments did I have that I'm really proud of? All right, can I top it next year? Yeah, I can top it. That's always my kind of thing. It's just that I don't, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, the goal is I have to be working for WWE here, or the goal is I have to, I have to take this Triple Live High School Sports Network to here, and then I'm going to go run Fox Sports. I don't get that way. I just don't, because that to me then starts to get in the territory of people who do this a whole lot and it doesn't equal up.
Right.
I don't want to do all the talk. I'd rather just be known to be working hard, and the results will do the talking. It's just, that's how I don't know. I you're probably the same. I can't. I get very short fused on people that just do all kinds of talk, and don't reflect any of the initiative to get that talk done. It's just like stop.
Yeah, there's a point where the talking needs to stop, and there's got to be more doing.
Right. It's fine to be positive. It's fine to be positive and to be motivated. That's fine. But if I don't see the initiative from you, or if every day you got the new greatest announcement, no, just work.
Yeah.
We'll see it. We'll see the results. Just work.
Absolutely. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah,
I am the same way. I actually just posted a video on this not too long ago. As far as there comes a time where eventually you got to stop talking and you got to start working, and that's why you got to put in the work to be able to do it. It's fine to post quotes and things like that, but quotes don't work unless you do. So, just in wrapping up, where would be the best place for people to be able to connect with you, subscribe to your channel, get on your newsletter and things like that?
I mean, I'm very active on my Twitter account at Justin LaBar. That's where links to everything. You know, Chairshot Reality. We're on Wrestling Inc. now. We are no longer with WrestleZone. We're on WrestlingInc.com every single weekend. You can binge watch on their YouTube channel. We also have smaller clips that go up on social media. So you know, Wrestling Inc. where Chairshot Reality is. Write columns still for the Pittsburgh Trib. Well, you can find on triblive.com, and I have my audio podcast to give a shout to that, Wrestling Reality. So for people that want audio, a little bit longer form, every Wednesday I have a show, and you can find it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, everywhere. And that's where I'm able to get more of my guests too. You know, I have some more guests on there in the past. So yeah, that's. If you can't find me, you're really not looking. I'm
I'm everywhere.
Yeah, I try to be. If you miss something, then I don't know where you're looking.
Right. Yeah, because you definitely have a lot of content out there, and it's something that I definitely admire and I aspire to get to as well. To get to this platform, to a lot of different places as well. So I definitely appreciate your time and you coming on to the show. I definitely am looking forward to maybe talking some more in the future and coming up with more predictions and seeing how things play out in the future. So just in wrapping up, now that you know what Justin does with his 24 hours, I want to know what you do with your 24 hours. Definitely like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment below, and we will see you on the next episode.